Hi guys, welcome to Skip to My Life. I'm Shannon, and today we're going to do a fun craft project that's really practical and only cost me $5. So without any further ado, let's get going. The purpose of this little 3-tier tray was to fit perfectly on our small kitchen table. My husband and I have downsized an empty nest, and we just have a really narrow, small kitchen area. So I had a hard time finding something just the right size, and I decided to make it with these 3 Dollar Tree trays and 2 glass candlesticks. You may be familiar with the Waverly chalk paint. I got this from Walmart. It's in the color plaster. And also this time I'm using Gorilla hot glue sticks because I knew that I needed a really firm bond. These are some paintbrushes that I got at Walmart, and those are my supplies. Very simple, very easy to find. If you're enjoying this video, hit the like and subscribe button. So you'll see that I started by placing the Gorilla Glue around the edge of the candlestick, and because this is such a delicate little candlestick, I wanted to make sure that I used that glue versus regular hot glue. So I think that it set up really well. I did go around the rim and I used even more, and I pushed that into all the cracks and crevices with the end of my paintbrush. Now I'm going to start painting these trays, and before I go on to that, I do want to tell you how important it is to make sure you have those candlesticks dead center on these trays. These particular trays have a circle on the underside, but if you don't have a tray that's already marked, it is worth your time to mark it off and measure it. You'll see that I do that when I glue these together. It took me 3 coats of the chalk paint, and I did very thin coats and let them dry in between. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I'd love to have you come on back. Now, if you're painting 3 coats like this or several coats, you may get tired of washing that paintbrush out. The chalk paint dries extremely quickly. So here's my little tip. You can just turn it into a Ziploc bag. Make sure that you get all the air out, and make sure that your handle is sticking up so that when you're ready to paint again, all you need to do is unzip that bag, grab the handle, and pull the paintbrush out. And then it's also really important to make sure that that lid to your chalk paint's on very, very tight. Now I did put a lot of glue at the top of those candlesticks, and I wanted to cover that with some nautical rope. I had just enough left from my other projects that I was able to cover the top of both of those candlesticks. And I did use a generous supply of the Gorilla Gun glue. Now you'll see these 2 cylinders that look like little pieces of wood to the sides. I originally thought I might cover the base of that candlestick just with a cylinder of wood look, but it just was a little too bulky. So I went to my plan B, which was to use my jute twine to cover the rest of that candlestick. I wanted to really support it and make it stronger, but also I wanted to continue with that rustic natural look. Now it took just a little bit to get the jute twine going, but once I got a rhythm and I was turning that tray around, it really went pretty quickly. Now this is definitely an optional step, but I decided I wanted to whitewash a little over that jute twine and rope just to make it look a little bit less of a contrast. Now when you finish this stage, you'll have two trays that are up on the candlestick stands and one tray that's not. To the third tray, we're going to add little feet. And to do that, I just used 4 of the same shape wooden beads that I had in my craft stash, and I glue gun them again with the Gorilla Glue to the 4 corners of that tray. Next, I just painted over the beads with the same chalk paint that I had painted on the trays. Then once the chalk paint was dry, I went back in with a dark brown paint and added that to my original chalk paint to make a color that I was really happy with. Next, I'm going to use a dry brush technique to just add what looks like a little bit of wood grain to these trays. They have these beautiful little dots along the edges, and I wanted to make sure that those popped, but I also just wanted to add a bit of dimension. So I took my brush, dabbed it in that paint, and then wiped a little bit off on a paper tray so that it was a very light touch of paint. Now don't ask me why, but for some reason I got the biggest kick out of painting this little footed pedestal, the little feet to match. I just couldn't believe that underneath this paint, these were just simple beads that I had used. I was really happy with the way it turned out. The last step is a really important one. You're going to want to measure the center of each of those trays that you'll be stacking one on top of the other, and make sure that you find the middle of each tray. Now I want to add one step that I didn't show you here, and that is I recommend that you paint the bottom of that little candlestick with the paint, the same chalk paint. It does make it adhere better, and I will also tell you that regular glue gun glue probably will not hold this in place, but the Gorilla Glue did work really well. Now I wanted a 3-tier tray for this space, but you could easily make this into a 1 or 2-tier tray. You could make several different trays and stagger their heights by the candlestick height, whatever works for you in your space. Now this is just a small tray used to hold very light objects for this area. I would not recommend it for things that are really heavy. I hope you enjoyed making this tiered tray with me, and I hope that you'll send me your stories of things that you found around the house. Maybe this has made you even more creative since you can't go out and get new things. I know it has for me. I hope that you make it a great day, and we'll see you again soon on Skip to My Life.